measures to reduce your risk. Wash your hands frequently using soap and water or an alcohol-based hand rub. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, or mouth. Avoid eating raw meat and unnecessary contact with wild animals. Avoid close contact with anyone with flu-like symptoms. When coughing and sneezing, cover your mouth and nose with a flex elbow or use a tissue. Take particular precaution while traveling. Seek medical care early.
7 conseils pour se protéger contre le nouveau coronavirus. 1. Lavez-vous régulièrement les mains à l'eau et au savon ou à l'aide d'un gel hydroalcoolique. 2. Vous ressentez l'envie de tousser ou d'éternuer? Faites-le dans un mouchoir ou dans le creux de votre coude, puis lavez-vous les mains. 3. Restez à au moins 1 mètre de distance des autres personnes, surtout si elles toussent, éternuent ou ont de la fièvre. 4. Évitez de vous toucher les yeux, le nez et la bouche. 5. Évitez tout contact direct avec des animaux vivants. Et si cela est impossible, veillez à vous laver les mains après le contact. 6. Ne mangez pas de produits animaux crus ou mal cuits et lavez-vous les mains. Nettoyez les surfaces et les ustensiles après usage. 7. Si vous avez de la fièvre, de la toux ou des difficultés à respirer, consultez un médecin.
Equinox Télévision, au-delà de l'image, nous rendons compte.
The obligatory wearing of face masks to fight against the COVID-19 in the Republic of Cameroon is effective in the major towns, though there are still some persons seen moving around without the face mask. They are exposing themselves to sanctions, according to administrative authorities who have expressed their determination to kick out COVID-19 from Cameroon through the wearing of face mask and the other anti-COVID-19 measures taken by the Cameroon government, coupled with the World Health Organization sanitation rules. Thanks, dear viewers, for joining us in this edition of the Primetime Newscast on Equinox Television, live from our headquarters in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. I am Bable Jonathan. We're going to begin right away in the nation's political capital, Yaoundé, and we're talking about the obligatory wearing of face mask in public places and public institutions. It is effective in Cameroon's political capital, Yaoundé, moving through the streets of Yaoundé and visiting some some public institutions in the town. Almost all persons were seen putting on their face mask in respect to the measure taken by the government of the Republic of Cameroon, announced by the Prime Minister Chief Dr. Joseph Djengoute, making the wearing of face masks in public places obligatory, among other measures, about 20 taken by the government of Cameroon to stop the spread of COVID-19 in the country. And we spoke to the governor of the Central Region, Nasiri Paul Bea. Listen to him in this extract selected by Marcelin Gansop in Yaoundé.
I was glad when I made a brief tour around the town to notice that most of the people are wearing masks. And given that most of the people who are outside go out for specific activities. And so we had already established it in our own service, but now we are happy to know that more than 90% of the population is already wearing masks, and this will go a long way to hamper the effects on the propagation of this pandemic. And equally, we want to advise those who are selling most of the locally made masks to know that they have to be able to put in place a system where people will measure just once, because when they measure and keep back and remeasure, it is already a source of contamination. Thirdly, we want to inform the public as a whole, especially not to be throwing this mask when they have used, especially the imported ones, along the gutters or the drainage or in town, because it is a source of contamination and it can equally be a source where it will going to block the drainage of water passage in town. So we have instructed the regional delegate of environment with some volunteers to come up with a study on how to be able to carry away these materials after usage, because if you are not able to put them in the dustbin put in place by Hizaka, we should look for another mechanism for people to be able to do this. Thank you very much.
The governor of the Central Region, Paul Bear, speaking there, and the wearing of face mask, the obligatory wearing of the face mask is equally effective in the country's economic capital, Douala, though many people are still seen moving around without the face mask as instructed by the Prime Minister, Chief Dr. Joseph John-Kutte, to fight against the COVID-19 pandemic that continues killing people in the Republic of Cameroon. More deaths have been recorded, more confirmed cases have been recorded at days as days go by, despite government's offensive or fight against the coronavirus, and law enforcement officers have been moving around the town of Douala to enforce the respect of that decision taken by government to bar the way to COVID-19. Reports.
The compulsory use of face masks as additional measures put in place by the government of Cameroon to prevent the spread of the coronavirus in the country has gone operational across the national territory. In some major neighborhoods in Douala on Monday, a great number of persons could be seen respecting a new dressing code. But the quality of some of the masks worn by city dwellers is questionable.
It is due to the condition, but I think with this one that I have, I protect myself, so things are not moving. So for me, the little that I have, I reserve it for the fuel and also for the family in the house. So I prefer using this before seeing how things will be ahead.
I do have a face mask, but the problem now is I am not using the required face mask. It is because I don't have the financial means to acquire them. Health experts say the required face masks are supposed to be changed after 3 hours. But can Cameroonians afford for face masks that cost 3,000 CFA francs, an amount we are unable to make daily? The COVID-19 measures taken by the government of Cameroon, according to local inhabitants, has drastically slowed down economic activities.
Well, I can say it is not easy with us because things are not really moving. Since the coronavirus started, things are very difficult. So concerning the passengers, so with passengers, we cannot more carry 2-3 people on a bike as we were doing before. So now things are very difficult for us, and passengers are not paying the way they used to pay before. So we find life very difficult for us.
Cameroonians are called upon to wear face masks so as to better facilitate the fight against the coronavirus. As clearly stated by the Prime Minister, Chief Joseph John-Kutte, defaulters will be sanctioned.
The poor and low-income earners are raising concerns over the absence of other measures that ought to have been taken by the government to facilitate the respect of the obligatory wearing of face mask anti-COVID-19 measure in the country. Some of them are indicating that the government of the Republic of Cameroon, in their opinion, should have made a massive production of face masks to be distributed free to Cameroonians, especially particularly the low-income earners, and that the government should also intervene as far as the price of face mask is concerned and homologate the prices and make sure that the prices are harmonized at an acceptable and affordable level for all Cameroonians. That is why this is the reason some of them are advancing for the fact that they are wearing the wrong face mask or the face mask that is not medically acceptable and that is not serving the purpose that of preventing them from contracting COVID-19. Now to the southwest region of the country, a correspondent in Boya, Derek Jato, went through the town and he is taking a look at the respect of this measure in that part of the country hit by socio-political and security crisis for more than 3 years today.
Boya, they want to compose a face mask on everyone, especially those in public places. Here on the street of this southwest capital city, some people have the face mask on and some are not. People are very stubborn. You want to see before they believe. Here in Boya, not everyone is. Others have them instead on their chin and neck.
They should respect what the head of state has said, the head of government. And if you don't put what they need, you will be punished.
And to many, it is a huge challenge to cover the nostrils and mouth. And down here in Mundimba, headquarters of Jan Division, Fowang Lawrence, the senior divisional officer of this division, is on the field to take down note himself.
I want to say that after having visited public and parapublic services in Mundimba this morning, we observed that almost everybody in Mundimba subdivision today is putting on a face mask. And from the reports reaching me from other subdivisions, it is the same enthusiasm. And I want to take this opportunity to personally thank the population of Indian Division for standing beside the state, for respecting all the 20 measures which were put in place by His Excellency President Paul Biya through the Prime Minister, Chief Dr. John Gute, to stop the spread of coronavirus in Cameroon.
But this is just day one, and he says the commitment too is total.
All the senior division officers in that division, alongside the security forces, we have taken a pledge that all the 20 measures are going to be implemented in the whole of Indian Division.
And as to whether the sizes, shapes and quality of this now popular face mask matches the specifications of medical experts is the question for another day. For now, the sewing machines are busy as the demand keeps rising.
Some inmates of the Yaoundé Central Prison went on a rampage today over concerns related to the COVID-19. Many of them were expressing anger and fear over a possible outbreak of COVID-19 in that incarceration center. It should be recalled that political and civil society leaders in Cameroon have been calling on the Cameroon government to liberate all the persons being detained in the different incarceration centers across the country to avoid a catastrophic situation that could erupt or could be provoked by a possible coronavirus case in one of those incarceration centers. And with regards to the overcrowded nature of prisons in Cameroon, political and civil society leaders think that if there were to be a single case of COVID-19 in one of those detention centers, the situation is going to be catastrophic. And some of the inmates of the Yaoundé Central Prison got information that some corpses were taken out of those prison, the prison in a way that raises questions and concerns as to whether they were victims or patients of COVID-19 who died in that incarceration center. There is no official information as to whether there has been any case of COVID-19 in that prison or any other prison across the country, but the prisoners went on rampage over fears of a possible COVID-19 outbreak in that incarceration center in the nation's capital, Yaoundé. Now to the People's Republic of China, where Africans are being maltreated by Chinese authorities. Inosenazi presents the situation over there in China as far as the Cameroonians and other Africans who are living there are concerned.
Maltreatment and eviction of African students and expatriates in China followed rumors that black communities had become a new hotbed for the coronavirus pandemic, especially in the Chinese southern city of Guangzhou. As the rumors intensified, Africans were being targeted in most cities in China, pulled out of their homes and mishandled by Chinese. Some of them were subjected to a forced coronavirus testing and arbitrary 14-day self-quarantine, regardless of their recent travel history. Larger numbers of African nationals were also left homeless after being evicted by Chinese landlords and rejected by hotels in most cities in China, especially the southern city of Guangzhou. Having reportedly contained the coronavirus pandemic, concerns have grown in recent weeks in China over a so-called second outbreak brought in by foreign nationals, especially Africans. Across the African continent, there is growing bitterness and anti-foreigner sentiment as images of maltreated Africans in China increasingly flood social media. The videos show some Africans harassed by police, sleeping on streets, or being locked up in their homes under quarantine in China. African ambassadors in China have written to the country's foreign ministry over what they call discrimination.
One of the former vice presidents of Cameroon's lower house of parliament, Honorable Joseph Mbandam, is no more. He died earlier today in Yaoundé at the age of 65. He was a member of parliament of the Social Democratic Front from Momo in the northwest region of the country. And in the report coming up next, Inosenazi takes us down memory lane into the life of the former statesman.
Do you know how many innocent souls have been killed?
Honorable Joseph Mbandam was born on February 28, 1955 in Batibo subdivision, Momo division of the Northwest region. Mbandam graduated from the University of Yaoundé. He was a visiting lecturer at the Faculty of Law of the University of Yaoundé from 1988 to 1992. Before his death, he was advisor on legal and judicial matters of the National Financial Credit Bank and chair of the Union of Cultural and Development Association of Momo Division. He was a practicing Pentecostal Christian, father of 4 children, joined the SDF party and became member of the National Executive Council since 1991. Joseph Mbandam later became Member of Parliament for Momo West constituency following the May 17, 1997 parliamentary elections in Cameroon that saw the SDF win 43 out of 180 seats at the National Assembly. He was Vice President at the National Assembly until his parliamentary career ended following the March 22, 2020 defeat. Honorable Joseph Mbandam, from birth of the Anglophone crisis in 2016 to its escalation to an armed conflict till present, joined his comrades and in synergy defended interests of Anglophones in Parliament away from secession but demanding a 10-state federation. He joined his on with political activities to participate in the February 9, 2020 legislative election. On Friday, March 20, some 48 hours before the March 22, 2020 parliamentary election rerun, one of the vehicles of the convoy of Honorable Joseph Mbandam suffered a blast due to an explosive positioned at one of the 21 barricades erected by armed bands between Bamenda in the Mezam division and Batibo in the Momo division. At least 6 persons were seriously injured, but Honorable Joseph Mbandam came out physically unhurt. Bandam was part of the April 3rd press conference in Yaoundé, granted by Honorable O.C. Joshua, first Vice President of the Social Democratic Front Party, during which he recounted the events surrounding the March 22nd election rerun in over 10 constituencies in the Northwest and Southwest regions. Honorable Joseph Bandam, who sat next to O.C. Joshua, looked dejected following the defeat that put an end to his parliamentary career. That appeared to be his last public outing till announcement of his death this Monday, April 13, 2020, after an illness, leaving his family and the SDF party in grief.
To become more vigorous in looking for final solution.
Coming up in Talking Points, we pay tribute to Honorable Joseph Bandam, and we're going to be bringing to you one of his last interviews. He was speaking to the Inside. Our guest is one of those who have been very outspoken, very vocal on the Anglophone crisis and other issues of national interest in the Republic of Cameroon. He is one of those who have been pressing for the Anglophone crisis to be discussed in a parliament. He is a member of Cameroon's lower house of Parliament and the Pan-African Parliament. He is also a barrister at law. Honorable Joseph Bandam, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you, you're welcome.
You're one of the participants at the major national dialogue which took place in Yaoundé from the 31st of September to the 4th of October 2019.
Yes, indeed, I was one, and actually I belong to the Justice Systems Committee, the Judicial Committee, which had to examine profoundly the judicial systems of Cameroon.
After the major national dialogue, there were some who have been qualified as pessimists who think that the major national dialogue was not a dialogue. No dialogue took place, according to people like Jean Denis, president of the Popular Action Party, and other persons. And some also think that it was a waste of time and state resources. Some think that even the major outcome of that major national dialogue, the special status, is not going to change anything. It's going to be a failure.
I know that the war is going on. The war is still on. The point is that what we agreed out of the dialogue has not started bearing fruits. But let me start by first saying that we of the SDF, we had to go for the dialogue because we called for an inclusive dialogue. We wrote to the President of the Republic. We demonstrated in many respects and areas that dialogue was of essence. And so when it was convened, it was but natural that we had to go in order to prove it as working or not working. If we did not go, everything that would go wrong will be attributed to those of us who refused to go.
Honorable Joseph Bandam, you took part in the major national dialogue, which was focused on finding a way out of the Anglophone crisis. And after this, there are some politicians like yourself, there are some civil society leaders, including people like the president of the Cameroon People's Party, the CPP, Kabanwala. He did not think that that event was a non-event. It was a waste of time and state resources. But you think that it was a productive meeting. Why do you think so?
I'm inclined to think that it was productive. First of all, because The debate and the discussions were free and frank, and we arrived at certain positions, tenets which, if implemented, will take this country a long way. I can catalog them for you. First, the very basics of the foundation of the crisis in Cameroon came from the lawyers. And the lawyers' problem was the manner in which the common law was being handled in Cameroon. We have now agreed that the common law will exist side by side with the civil law. And the whole question of harmonization is shelved. In fact, we have had to shelve what they were calling the family law code and the civil procedure code. Those are now a non-starter and will not exist anymore. We have had to accept that the common law needs a law school in the context of the English legal system, not the so-called école d'études juridiques that was being parodied around in French. We've agreed on that. We've agreed that since the common law exists as a whole corpus, a legal system, the Supreme Court of Cameroon will be made up of two departments, a department of the common law and a department of English law, full-fledged departments with all their ramifications. These are the things we have adopted.
The two legal systems will function along the line, that is one on the other side and one on the other side, yes, independently.
Not yes, around the country, not on the other sides, as you give the impression that when you and I who are resident in Yaoundé, we have the cases where Anglophone will run to the Anglophone section. No. The legal system has to be fashioned now in a way that the training of the judges and the magistrates of the two civil systems go on hand in hand, to the extent that we have as many common law magistrates and judges as there are civil law magistrates and judges, so that every court will have a composition that gives room for the creation of a common law bench at any point where there is litigation.
If I understand you well, if an Anglophone has a problem with another Anglophone and they are in Douala or in Yaoundé or in any French-speaking part of the country, they will be judged by common law lawyers or judges? Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. That is what I'm saying. That the composition, the whole composition and setup of our courts has to be transformed, so that in each jurisdiction you have the two systems fully represented, so that if the issue concerns the people of the English-speaking extraction, they are handled by the English legal system. And if they concern the French-speaking people, they are handled by the civil law system. And if it were to be that the litigants are from both sides, they will have a right of choice of the applicable law in accordance with the principles of private international law, which we are quite conversant with.
What else will change in the judicial system of the country?
Another fundamental issue was the fact that we came and agreed that the military tribunal should never ever try civilians again, which means that not only have we been, as the president, been able to order the stoppage of proceedings now, but that will have an influence on those civilians who have been tried and sentenced by the military tribunal. Their cases are going to go in a way that eventually they are released. because that court would have no jurisdiction to try civilians anymore.
Two major areas of national life which were at the center of the Anglophone crisis when it erupted in 2016 were the legal system and the educational system. Concerning the educational system, what is going to change as per the recommendations of the national?
We have come out with the fact that the two educational systems must be kept very separate. And it is now left for us to make sure that we legislate in such a way that there is no interference between one educational system with the other. And I remember we were invoking the fact that as far as the English-speaking people of the English-speaking instruction are concerned, this whole question of bringing primary school to 6 years is not conformable to us. And it was recommended that it would be good that we take it back to 7 years. So one is expecting reform in that regard.
Okay. Now, I listened to the national president of the Cameroon People's Party, the CPP, Kabanwala Edith, and she said the special status, which is one of the major outcomes of the national dialogue, is a big mistake. These are words. She said it's a big mistake because it's going to generate other, it's not going to produce the expected results. One is going to generate other problems. For example, we have the Grand North already requesting for its own special status and so on.
We say attend the dialogue. I want to know whether I don't like to, polemic with people who did not attend the dialogue and leave the events. The special status, first of all, comes logically. Anglophones or Cameroonians of English extraction, that we are, we're first of all asking for a two-states federation, a return to the 1961 situation, a condemnation of the illegal referendum that took place in Cameroon in 1972 and abolish the federal constitution, because these two entities came together to form Cameroon. And in asking all that, we were clear that we need a restoration, go back to where we started after Fumban and the plebiscite. And since this government thinks that it hangs on to decentralization, we're going to invoke the provisions of Section 62, sub 2 of their own constitution, to show that there is room for a certain area to be treated very specially, having regard to their specificities. And the specificities that Anglophones have, or the Northwest and Southwest region have, is that they have a total different heritage, cultural wise, educational wise, and legal wise. And for that reason, we have explored around the world to see there are as many special status territories around the world.
And your political party thinks that the example of Quebec is the best example that speaks to the Northwest and the Southwest?
Yes, the examples, yes, having analyzed all, we have about 51 in Africa. That's what Cameroonians don't know, that we have such territories. There are about 51 in Africa. Look at Tanzania and Tanganyika. Let me just give you an example like that. Belief is a nation within a nation. Tanganyika is a nation within Tanzania. And when you look at
with a special status,
yes, special status,
system in place,
a special system in place. And why did we invoke Quebec? Canada happens to be the exact proponent of Cameroon, except for the fact that the minorities are reversed. There are 13 provinces in Canada, and one of the 13 is French-speaking. Canada by 2006 is a nation within a nation. It has a premier, it has a legislative assembly, it has its own French system of administration that has nothing to do with the English system on the other side. And that is what we're asking for. What actually have we been asking under a federation? We wanted autonomy. We want a system where we have a premier. We want a system where we have a legislative assembly, not councils. We want a system where the legal system itself is inherent in our inheritance from the colonial master. We want a system which will implement the English-style administration. So once you have all these things put together, I don't need to be running about the name federation.
Another institution which you highlighted, or which is highlighted in the press statement of the national chairman of the Social Democratic Front, is the House of Chiefs.
We have said that is another attribute of the state of West Cameroon.
That should be restored.
That should be restored. So that we have our House of Chiefs. Those are that is the connotation of the special status that should satisfy the people of the English-speaking extraction and constitute about a solution to the plight of the people.
Now, these elements coming into the same container, decentralization, will it make any difference?
Well, the Constitution as it is provided for a special status, and we are not the first that because of specificities of certain regions, they can be treated differently in terms of their functioning and administration.
Do you foresee an end to the killings, destruction of properties, abductions, and all the atrocities going on in the northwest region and southwest region in the near future?
Yes, it's my fervent hope, because what this analysis we are making, if these things are being put in place in the fastest possible time, the population will begin to feel at home.
The population may feel at home, but those who are standing firmly on separation, cessation, and so on,
the majorities will build up. If truly what we have adopted comes into implementation, you will discover that people's positions will change. There are those who may say that do or die they must separate, but the gap will begin to narrow when the things that were promised are being done and done well. People will probably see no reason for wanting to create another state, and the majorities will build up. Join the Federalists that we started in 1990 with it. We had foreseen that war was not the best of solutions. When we launched the party in 1990, we foresaw that war was not the best of solutions. And we foresaw that this fight will be long drawn. And that is why you heard statements that we were starting a process which will live over to our children. This country has become one. Let no one deceive you about Resolution 1608. There was no union agreement, all that junk. It's international manipulation. And people will come very soon, they tell you that the UN has already said that, the UN saying nothing. Look at the United States, when you have the issue of Turkey and Syria, they're right there. We've been killing ourselves for more than 3 years, so has come around. But the Syrian episode you have seen, the US is right, the sanctions are falling.
There were expectations of a union treaty emerging from the major national dialogue. But
those are issues to me that don't matter. When there's a plebiscite is a pact. Once you carry out a plebiscite, will you obtain independence by joining X or by joining Y? After that, it's a pact. What do you call union treaty?
But as a legal mind, is there no line, is there no distinction between a declaration of intent and a pact? To some legal minds, it was a declaration of intent.
That's what they choose to call it. When we carry out a plebiscite, it's the question you answer yes or no.
An agreement.
Of course. It's a pact. That's why I give it more important was a pact. You sign a pact.
You decide to belong.
Yes.
Or there.
And what is more, after the plebiscite, the report was taken to the United Nations. And the report of the plebiscite was adopted. And Britain was congratulated by a job well done. So it's going to undo all that.
No, but Joseph Banda, what do you think about political transition in Cameroon?
You know, we've had a regime that has lasted for too long. And most of the things we are living through today are as a result of the longevity of the regime. If this regime were to change, people's positions will alter and people will begin to think differently. We fought the regime since 1990 as a party, and in 1996 we adopted the Constitution of 18th January 1996, which gave a mandate of 7 years to the President of the Republic, renewable ones. But curiously, after 14 years or thereabout, he turned around and changed it to become indefinite. In 1996, there was relative calm when we adopted the 1996 Constitution. But the Cameroonian people believe that whatever be it be, after 14 years, they will suddenly have a change of regime. But when Biya came round to make himself eternal on the saddle, that has produced diverse consequences until at this point where we are at war. That is how Boko Haram emerged in the far north. That is how Anglophones have gone now into war. And that's how he declared war on Anglophones. And as long as he is in the saddle, things are very likely to continue to worsen.
Even though schools aides have said on several occasions that the head of state never used those words, declaration of war on Cameroonians.
No, he did. He did. On the 30th of November, I heard, it's on record, he said the lines are drawn and he declared the war. He's used to that. He declared war in France against Boko Haram. And that was the first time Boko Haram exploded in the far north. Same to when he came, he declared war on Anglophones. And the situation exploded. I remember this war in the Anglophone zones started as a war of self-defense. It was because the people said they want to defend themselves from the war that we declared on them. So why should people lie? It was not something said in a box. It was public at the airport. He was coming back from Abidjan on the 30th of November. There's no doubt about that.
So you were saying there is a need for a political transition in Cameroon?
Absolutely necessary.
Through the ballot box, through the streets?
Through the ballot box.
Some were saying Cameroonians have to rise up and say,
no, through the ballot box,
you and your regime should leave, and then other people take over.
Through the ballot box is the best choice, the choice of the SDF. So there are many things that actually should go on for an election to properly take place in Cameroon. And in the two former federated states, with equal vehemence, ELECAM has to be refurbished and reformed. Because in southern Cameroon, in the northwest and southwest regions, the ELECAM council head offices do not exist anymore. They have been burned down, equipment and registers destroyed. The personnel has left. Not only left the various councils, but many more have gone beyond Cameroon through Panama to the United States. So you can see a deteriorating situation. So to call an election under the present circumstance, it aggravates the situation. And so this whole thing necessarily implies a regime change.
And that, according to some opposition politicians, is impossible in the present context. I listened to somebody who once said, even if the Pope comes to Cameroon and is a presidential candidate in the present context, he will still be a loser.
I too hold of that if you put all the political parties together and pitch Biya on one side with his administration, he will still beat the political parties, including the CPDM. That is why you need to overhaul the electoral process. And that is why we truly need a viable electoral system that can result in alternation.
The electoral code should be revised. The institution managing the elections equally restructured.
Yes. The electoral code should be reformed. ELECAM should be reformed. ELECAM should no longer depend on the ethics of the President of the Republic, because he appoints and dismisses members of the board and of the directorate.
The members of the board who say the institution is independent, they are independent.
That's empty noise.
They are not depending on the head of state.
You can't say so when it's the very head of state who appoints you to the office and dismisses you. How can you claim independence? There is no independence. We made proposals about an veritable independent electoral commission. It's a question of fact. It is known. We truly want to do justice to our country. We know what should be done, and not to be going round and round.
According to Honorable Joseph Bandam, the ballot box is the only way and not the streets.
The ballot box, that's the best way. Because if we were to go through the unfortunate situation of a revolution, we have a lot more to lose. We have seen how much killings has already taken place in one part of the country within 3 years. Those who extrapolate that to the whole country, you will see that we will come out worse off than any country you can imagine.
Those who are standing for a transition through the street, citing examples like Sudan, Algeria, and so on, where the regime or the head of state was forced to leave power.
They are only talking in their small holes. What are they in the streets? Why are they calling areas that they cannot match to? Where is the reaction? small pockets of people who talk like storms in teacups, and it ends there. So how do you consider that is any revolution? No. We are not capable of conducting a regime change through other means, other than going the peaceful way and getting reforms effected.
Honorable Joseph Bandam, a last word to Cameroonians before we go.
I've served Cameroon as a parliamentarian since 1997. I won elections consecutively 4 times for 5-year mandates. I foresaw the hell into which our country was drifting. I articulated issues both nationally and internationally concerning the fate of our country. The Anglophone crisis is not a thing of today. It's a crisis that has lasted over the years, and the government will not pay a listening ear. Now we have come to the crossroads where we are killing our own children. All I need to tell Cameroonians is that this dialogue, which has come by, we should join hands to make sure that the recommendations and resolutions as we adopted are implemented so that we could make a step forward. I essentially forgot one essential aspect, the question of double nationality, which we adopted too. We will be legislating on it so that our diaspora should be able to participate in the development of our nation. You remember we also did agree that the name of this country should go back to the United Republic of Cameroon. All these things are on record and on paper. And it is my urge to all Cameroonians to be alert, be on the alert, and see how you can sustain us during the November session to see how much of the implementation we can carry out in respect of the decisions that were taken at the dialogue.